Hey, welcome to the Strategic Success Podcast. I'm your host, Courtney Fricke. Thanks for tuning in. Hey everyone, Courtney here. Hey, I had a conversation today with one of my best friends in the industry, Steve Keighery. And so in today's version, which is part 1, we had a fantastic conversation around wholesaling. He has grown, if not the largest, one of the largest wholesale companies in the New Orleans metro area. And he's got a big background in business. A lot of people don't actually, he's not the braggadocious type, but a lot of people don't know what all he's built. So I share a little bit about his story, have him pull some of the gems of, the company that he took to the stock market. And he shares that, how does that impact him as a wholesaler, the wholesale business that he is doing. And so he's going to share some thoughts and some gems on wholesaling as a business model that I think is really important, whether you're an investor or an agent, to check on out. So now there's also going to be a part 2 to this, so make sure you tune to that as well. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. Hey guys, welcome to another episode here. Steve, I'm excited to have a conversation with you today. So I have Steve Keighery here with me with Home Buyer Louisiana. So Steve, you and I have known each other for years. I consider you one of my closest friends here in the New Orleans market. And I'm excited to introduce you guys to Steve. I think he is a powerhouse when it comes to investing and thinking about business. And so speaking of that, let me kind of give people an overview of your background. So you haven't started talking yet, but you're our token Australian, right?
Hiding the accent.
Yeah. So, you got the accent and all. So you lived in Sydney, Australia. While there, you did a few different ventures, but then you eventually were one of the founders for a startup. And that startup, y'all grew at the height of it. Y'all were valued at $500 million. Y'all went public on the stock exchange, 300 plus employees, right? And so that was a really big deal. Not a lot of people can say they've got, number one, that level of experience, but tons of business building experience and whatnot. But then whenever you moved here to the States, here, to New Orleans, you eventually got into the real estate business, right? Now you own real estate back in Australia. I'll have you share more about that here today. But so you've been involved in rentals, wholesaling, and a little bit of flipping. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so we're going to kind of dive into those things. You also helped started a meetup, the West Bank meetup, mm-hmm. which has been great. So let's kind of dive into talking about these things. I would argue and say you're one of the largest, if not the largest, wholesale company in the greater New Orleans area. It's always hard to judge those metrics because they're not public.
Yes.
Right? Someone could be silently in the background slaying away 10 deals a month.
And there are some people like that.
Yeah, there are some. It would be hard to know. But so I know you're out here. You have built, and more than that, in a small period of time, you've built a very respectable business here. But so let's talk about wholesaling and some of your philosophies around it. Why did you choose, when you came to the States, why did you choose to start a wholesaling company?
So I didn't at first, actually. So I really knew that I wanted to do real estate. So I'm a big Robert Kiyosaki fan, and build a business and use your business to buy, be an investor, and real estate was one of the best vehicles. So I wanted to do real estate here. I didn't know exactly what. Mm-hmm. So I came here initially on a vacation, and I had to get a visa. So we looked into how to stay, and I could get a business investment visa, which means I need to start a business. I need to invest capital into the country. I need to show a business plan to show that I'm going to hire locals and make an economic contribution. So what I was doing, I didn't really know. I just know I wanted to be here. I know I wanted to be in real estate. So
because didn't you look into like your general contract license and like you looked at a few different avenues?
Yeah, well, I originally got licensed as a general contractor, which Courtney's smirking because she knows I'm not very hands-on. It's actually scary that I was licensed, but basically meant getting like workers' compensation insurance, and it was just a more process.
Formalities.
Yeah, more formalities. So I did get licensed because part of my business plan was I was going to do renovations for property investors. That was like to be honest, I wasn't totally sure, but that was like I needed to have the business plan and have some investment made to get started and then figure it out. So part of that figuring out was I bought an investment property actually in Lafayette,
which is like 3 hours from here.
Yeah, 3 hours. So 3 hours from here. And I bought it because it was just like cheaper to buy. I was going to do a big renovation. I met this wholesaler guy who had the property. So Richard, Richard doesn't do wholesaling now, but he's a good guy. He's a business guy. And he showed me some properties. Actually, opened my eyes a lot. I looked at a lot of Section 8 properties in Lafayette, and like, whoa, okay, coming from Australia, it was a bit of a culture shock. But that aside, I bought this property, and I was doing my renovation, and I went, okay, wholesalers have the deals. Cool. I need to know the wholesalers. I'm like, I need to have that connection. For me, my mindset was, like, they got the deals. I'm going to be their customer. Let me learn what they do.
Yeah.
So then Vina Cox Jones was speaking at
Vina Jones.
I knew it. As soon as I said it, you're going to correct me. Vina was speaking at the Noria investment conference, and so she was about wholesaling. She did a 1-day course. Actually met you there. So she was teaching wholesaling and
how to do it at a high level.
Yep, and it just because my background in my business, I ran sales and marketing. So sales and marketing is my world. Like, I had 90 salespeople that work for me. I spend $1 million a month on marketing. Like marketing and sales is my thing. And
that was your that was your skill set.
Yeah.
And so obviously, how you as a general contractor, sure, you could find a way to marry that, but there was just such a leap.
Yep. So when she was so I went with the intention to be a customer, but as soon as she described wholesaling, pulling leads, sales process, marketing, I'm just like that's my skill set. Like this, right. So I would just bang, and I went and I did all of Vina's courses. Like in Ohio, she has more in-depth courses. So I did all of them. Her basic, her master, her So I just went wholesaling.
You went all in.
Yeah, and I at the point, because real estate too, there's that shiny object syndrome, right? There's so much to do, and I was listening to Bigger Pockets. I was trying to learn. I've done a little bit of real estate in Australia. I wasn't really a real estate person, but America was different language, just the terminologies, just different. So I was learning it. But then when I had that meeting, I went, wholesaling's it. I went, kill the noise. I listened to just wholesaling stuff. I was listening to Steve Trang's podcast. I was listening to Wholesaling. I just shut everything else out. I'm wholesaling, and that's why and how I started wholesaling.
Yeah, so that is something over the years in our friendship, I have always respected how you can just put the blinders on. To the point that you're like, I'm not listening to any other type of podcast. I'm being very, you're good at saying no. And I think that is a huge indication of success, because so many times we meet investors, and you have a meetup. I had a meetup for years where, we'd meet people who are green-eyed, they're wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, right? They're like, I'm going to get into real estate. And then you don't see them after a while, or, so they don't stay. Or they 1 week they're wholesaling, and 2 weeks later you're doing Airbnb, and then 6 months later they're like, oh well, that didn't work. You know what I mean? So that's a huge trait that you have. That is not something that's lightly. Have you always had that? Or is that something that you it was a learned skill or?
Good question. I don't know. I probably learned it. I had a lot of, building my business in Australia. I learned a lot of lessons. I had great business partners. I had great staff. I had great consultants. I've always had a lot of brains around me, and I've sat around a lot of really good people and worked with them. And so I might have learned it maybe through those environments, I'd say.
Well, they talk about success having patterns and things like that. And so it's one of those things that it's not uncommon to see successful people have that trait. And so it may not necessarily be something specifically talked about, but it's something I've noticed over the years.
If I think about it, we do talk about it. So there was a really successful guy in Australia, and we were at a talk he was doing, and he said something that and I took that lesson. He talked about being focused like a one-eyed dog in a meat factory, right?
That sounds like a Leonism, something from the country where it's a one-eyed dog in a meat factory. Okay.
It's focus. You're gonna eat that meat, and that was his thing about for business. You got to be that. So I think I remember him vividly saying that. I remember we discussed it with my business partner, and so I think we've executed like that often, and that's I guess part of me now.
No, I think that's great. So let's talk through. So obviously you've built this wholesale company where it's very successful in the greater New Orleans area. and you've grown into new markets, various things like that. So what do you think? Let's talk about wholesaling in general, because I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions out there. So what do you think are what value do wholesalers bring to the marketplace? Let's start there.
I think they bring incredible amount of value when done right. And I'll add a slant that probably not a lot of people speak about because it really doesn't come from any coach or guru. It's more my background. So my company in Australia was a two-sided marketplace. Okay, so two-sided marketplace. We're very similar to, for American people maybe watching, to like Angie's List, Home Advisor, where you're connecting contractors with homeowners, right? And a two-sided marketplace is it's a known business model. eBay is a two-sided marketplace. Airbnb is a two-sided marketplace. Uber is a two-sided marketplace. You're connecting two groups of people and monetizing in the middle. So I've got a lot of experience. I've read a lot of literature. I understand this model of two-sided marketplace. And when I saw wholesaling, I'm like, that's a two-sided marketplace. I don't think anyone thinks like that, or like, right. In a two-sided marketplace, you're adding value by removing frictions for these two parties. Your job is to serve both parties to make their lives easier. And I think most wholesalers get the seller side, right? Because there is the seller side. You're offering quick sale, no repairs, like fast. Like I think they get the value offered to a seller, because and just in case to spell it out, you ask what the value is, so I won't assume people know it. But I mean, a wholesaler is generally dealing with a distressed property or distressed owner. So distressed property, maybe there's a hole in the roof, it's in disrepair, termites, it's just not really ready. It's not easily sold, through a realtor to a home. It's not homeowner ready, right? So you're offering that person to buy it at a discounted price. There's a price trade-off, but you're offering to buy it fast as is, within 2 to 4 weeks, like the property sold, no hassle, easy button, right? So, or maybe there's like foreclosure and like there's a person distressed. So you're solving that distress to get that property sold. That person gets rid of the problem property, they get money. I think most people get that. But my brain is like, it's a two-sided marketplace. The other side is important too, and that's the buyers, right? And I do think and what I've learned in two-sided marketplace is that it's always out of balance, and the balance of power can change. Because if you in my world, if you have a lot of contractors and not many homeowners needing contractors, well, the homeowner is the most important thing. I need to get the homeowners numbers up to balance that out. If you've got too many homeowners and not enough contractors, well, you need contractors. So it ebbs and flows. And I think the last few years, before the last couple of years, there was no inventory. No houses for sale.
It was so hard to find deals, which is why when I got started, I learned how to deep dive into public records and really solve complex deals. Why? Because, well, there's always going to be those in a good and bad market, and most people don't want to deal with all that.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, in a really good market, distressed sellers or distressed properties, they have a lot more ample opportunity to put it on the MLS with an agent, and it'll fly off the shelf.
Yeah. And for the wholesale, if you have if you're able to get a contract, if you do that deep dive in and the likes, if you get a contract, that contract's gold. And it was really easy to move, and I think a lot of wholesalers that got in the game, and they got lazy, and it was almost arrogant, like they got I got this deal, and and they might not be being the best of the buyers, like auctioning them up, and that works while it works, but then what's happened more recently is it's shifted a little, right?
Sure.
It depends on your market, but like in our market, the buyers are a little more powerful because, so
there's less buyers, so versus less inventory, less sellers, distressed sellers or distressed inventory that, for example, can't just go put online on the MLS, but now there's less buyers buying, and so the ones who are buying can not necessarily name their price, but they've got more negotiating power.
Yeah, that is more I mean, it's always going to ebb and flow, and like both sides are always important. The point is you can't neglect. I think people neglected the buyer side. Yep. You can never neglect the side. You can't neglect the sellers, but sometimes one's more important than the other. So my mind is you need to look after the buyers, because most buyers, like not everyone wants to dig into public records like you. Like you're going direct, right? Like I'm doing lots of marketing. I'm finding these deals. What you're doing on that side is those buyers who were like the opposite of me, right? Like I love real estate, but I'm not a HGTV. I'm terrible with a hammer. Like, I can't change my light bulb, right? So that's not my skill, but my skill is sales and marketing.
Right.
The other flip side is a lot of my buyers, they're people that are the opposite of me. They're fantastic contractors, organizers, designers, but they're not marketers, and they don't want to be calling, speaking to sellers, negotiating, because for every deal we send them, they get this deal they look at. There's like 25 deals that I vetted and spoke to and negotiated to that they didn't have to speak to. Unrealistic sellers, not ready yet. And I gave them this deal signed and ready to go that they could look at and pick if they wanted to do.
Right.
But they don't want to do all this work, right? They don't want to find that deal, let alone find that deal, sift through and speak to all the other people that aren't going to be a deal before they get there. So,
Right.
so I mean, to go back to your question, I think wholesalers add a lot of value to sellers and a lot of value to buyers. They're just, a buyer can always, they can do their own marketing, and they might want to be vertically integrated and do marketing, and rehabbing and all these other things. But they're so that's a big business, because it takes a lot to do the marketing function. And, if you don't want to do that, we're basically outsourcing that for you and being that marketing function.
Well, and that speaks to part of your model where you also have rentals and you've started dabbling in some flips, and you have a little bit of a few other things, but there's also a level in which that plenty of people, again, they don't want to deal with that. And what I have learned is that not everyone is capable of building out the business that is required to do the volume.
Yeah.
So meaning the consistency of the lead flow. And so what do you think? So we're talking about the value that, and wholesalers are selling that opportunity, that contract. What do you think are some misconceptions about wholesalers that maybe others? So let's just say whether it's title attorneys, real estate agents, non-investors, what do you think some of those misconceptions might be in the marketplace?
Well, there are some misconceptions and there's some things that can be true of some people. You know what I'm saying? So, I think most common thing, a lot of buyers will think that wholesalers are terrible at calculating ARVs and pricing deals. And the truth that can be true, but that is a bias, and lots of people aren't that. So, I think that's probably the most likely one. The other side of that is, so I think there's a gap. A lot of buyers don't understand wholesalers, and I've learned this. I've learned that I've had a bunch of buyers who they're property people, but they're like, what? Wholesaling's a bit mysterious. They're like, what is that? Is it dodgy? Can I trust? I was speaking to someone on Facebook yesterday who they were dealing with a different wholesaler, and they're like, how do I know they had the contract? How do I know they're not there's this gap?
How do I vet them?
Yeah.
How do I vet them? By the way, reference here, you and I were on a panel talking about buying deals from wholesalers with the North Shore RIA. I'm going to make a note here to put that in the show notes. But that was a great hour-plus long conversation we had with Jay Alexander and whatnot for folks who want to buy from wholesalers and they're just like, I don't know. But okay, so that's fair. Right? Vetting them like, is this real? How do I know? There's always in every industry going to be the bad apples and, whatnot.
Yeah.
That's what people, I don't want to say focus on, but that's, that gets more attention than all the good ones. Mm-hmm. I've had real estate title attorneys, real estate attorneys that have title companies say, oh, we don't do wholesale deals. Yeah. And they all have their various reasons. Some of them is, there is a lot of fly-by-night, unprofessional, kind of messiness, and that can be true. And so then, for example, they've had a few bad encounters, so then they say we're not doing any transactions.
Well, I think there is a thing, right? And where I come from and some other people come from is I approach wholesaling as a business. Yeah. It's a business, right? So I care about brand. I care about the sellers because my brand is on the line. I care about if I say I'm going to buy a property, I care that I'm going to get that deal closed, right? And I bought properties I didn't want because a buyer backed out to look after my brand, right? There's brand to the buyers. The buyers need to trust me when I send deals, if I'm sending bad deals. So I have a brand outlook and a long-term outlook, and therefore, I'm going to do the right thing for my brand. I'm going to do it because I'm a good person, but even that aside, I'm going to do it for my brand. Yeah. I think a lot of wholesalers, it's more a hustle, and nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticizing someone doing a hustle, but it's just
a hobby.
Yeah, but it's like a side hustle. I'm trying to make a buck. I'm trying to do this deal, but it's not they're not thinking about I'm trying to do good business long term with people.
Short-sighted, yeah.
Short-sighted.
Yeah, it's short-sighted, it's transactional, it's, hey, this paycheck, it's not. So for example, you might take, whether it's a loss or just, hey, I didn't want to buy this, but because that buyer backed out, I'm going to go do this, because you're thinking long-term.
Exactly.
And that's huge. Simon Sinek has a great book called The Infinite Game about this, where it's that idea of just thinking long-term. And so many people, you can smell it a mile away when they're not long-term thinkers.
Yeah.
And so what about investors? What are some, well, hold on, let me go back and say this. I think a lot of real estate agents have misconceptions. They don't acknowledge or understand that there are those who have the reputable, respectful business model of it, right? I find that a lot of them do think it's just all the hustle,
Yeah.
right? The transaction based, this, that, and the other.
Well, I mean, I think it's hard, right? Because it's in some ways like when people are critical of wholesalers, I don't really argue with them from a sense of like I actually understand what they're saying, because some of them are like so I can't say no, they're not. I can't defend all wholesalers, because not all wholesalers deserve to be defended, which is the same of any other industry. Like some real estate agents aren't great too. You know what I mean? Like you can't. And every single profession has people who are good and bad. So when they're critical, I generally understand. And for me, it's like they haven't dealt with a good wholesaler yet. So when I come across those people, I just try to tell them what I do. I'm trying to defend but this is how I do it, and try to give them confidence, and just show them what a good wholesaler can look like. And there's plenty of good wholesalers out there.
Well, exactly. There's plenty of great ones. I know I've bought from them over the years, where I've done JV deals with them. That's how one of the ways that you and I started doing business together. And so those things are critical. So I think it's important to find the reputable ones in your area, right? Get to know who they are, right? Not all, how shall we say this? At the end of the day, in the same way that one, real estate agent isn't reflective of all real estate agents, same way one real estate wholesaler is not reflective of all. Same thing with a slumlord, right? Like, yep. Whatever. So let's talk about investors. What are some misconceptions that investors have towards wholesalers? You started mentioning something like they can't, run comps, estimate cost. That's a running joke, right?
Yep. And then, sometimes like I think they think that wholesalers don't do anything. They don't have value. Like they might look at what a wholesaler's check gets, and they will think they essentially, oh, you did nothing and you earn X amount of money. Right. And like what their misconception is, it's that X, getting that lead took work, money. If you're marketing, like I'm spending money on marketing, like I'm spending money to get people on the phone to talk about selling a home. I'm spending money to follow those people up, sometimes for 6 months, 12 months, like for forever. So that one deal, there's a whole lot of effort that goes into it. But like I said before, it's not just that one deal, it's the 30 people that didn't end up, that I made $0 off, that I still spent money on marketing, that I still spent money speaking to, that like it's all that sifting. So I think some buyers just don't value it. And that's fine. I mean, they're not buyers. If they're like that with me, I don't want them on my list. Like most of my buyers will say to me, I don't care what you make, as long as it's a good deal, I don't care, Exactly. And that's what it should be.
Well, and that's huge, because yes, I've had that before, where it's like people who are just counting other people's pockets. It's kind of like when someone goes, well, what did the seller buy it for? That doesn't matter, right? So like, people, all that, like I had someone, even just like in like a local buy-sell trade group, was like, this is crazy. I'm trying to buy a house right now. This seller bought it for 100 and they're asking 250. It's like, this is why. I'm like, but if the market calls for it being 250,
it was worth 250. It's
worth 250. And so I see it just even in the retail world. I see it in a lot of different places like that. And so, yeah, when someone's counting other people's, pockets, like, what, I need to know how much you make before I decide if this is a good deal or not. That is not a criteria for if a deal is a deal. It's not what each side is making. It really should just be, does the numbers work for you? And that's huge. And I always say that when someone's doing that, it's really clear if someone plays well in the sandbox with others. Back to recess as a child, right? If someone doesn't play well with others, that's not the type of people I want to do business with. Even a simple transaction like a wholesale deal. So, but now, what advice do you have for wholesalers who are looking to get, whether they're getting started or they're just trying to get some traction?
So, I mean, I obviously think long term, but I think that it's a two-sided marketplace, and two-sided marketplace is notoriously hard because where do I start? Do I go get,
Chicken before the egg.
yeah, do I like, because I need buyers so that I know when I tell the seller I can buy the house that I know I can close it, and that's true. But then it's hard to get the buyers when you don't have a deal because they speak to lots of people who never get deals, right? So that's always hard. So I think the best advice I would give, and I did it slightly different, but I learned from my mistake in that I think you want to start by work on the seller side because the seller's the most valuable. If like that market, that skill of being able to find them is what buyers will end up paying you for. And I recommend to joint venture with a wholesaler in your area.
Hey guys, Courtney Fricke here. We've got Aussie Steve. And look, if you have a deal that needs to get moved, Southeast Louisiana, even in South Mississippi, we're your folks. We are the largest dispo company, really in the greater New Orleans area, even Southeast Louisiana. We have great contacts in South Mississippi as well. Steve, why do we move more deals than others?
Just we're very deep in this market. So Greater New Orleans can be really confusing for national wholesalers. The comps are hard. We change block for block. We got flood zones. You know, we get a lot of hurricanes and the likes. And just a lot of the national platforms don't have the buyers on their list. So we are deep with buyers, but we're deep with relationships, which is really important in this market. So we love JVing with out-of-state investors.
Like I said, we do a ton of business with other investors. So go to homebuyerlouisiana.com/Courtney, fill out the information. We'll get in touch with you and we'll move this deal along. That's the experience.
Who can, yeah, because so then the wholesale works because you both benefit because that in that case you're splitting the assignment fee, right? So the wholesale, so you get the deal, get the other wholesaler to get the buyer, and you guys split the assignment fee, so you both get paid. That way, if that wholesaler is good, they'll help you underwrite the deal, so that they'll make sure it's a deal. So you can say that seller, I know I can close within 2 weeks because you know that you can, and that's a really good way to do it. Then you close a few deals. Now the buyers will start speaking to you because you've actually done deals. Like you trust me, you may not know it when you start, but like, you can sniff someone that hasn't done a deal. I'm a wholesaler, and it's like you can see that you haven't done a deal yet, which is fine. But like, I'm not that excited about getting on your buyers list or working with you because like you probably won't come with a deal. But once you've done a few deals, that confidence comes through. And now as a buyer, I want to be on your list. I care. Like I want to,
Right. You've proven to me that you're willing to stick around. You're willing to put in the work. And proof of concept has proven that you can get it done.
And just to double down that advice, to be specific, and where I made a mistake is sometimes people they'll partner with a buyer, which is what I did. When I started, I had a buyer who taught me a lot and very valuable stuff. I appreciate everything I learned from them. But what I didn't know at the time was I was like vetting deals, like I was looking through their eyes of whether this is a deal or not. And I learned later on that he's a buyer. He's not the buyers. And everyone has very different criteria. And to be a good wholesaler, you need to have, all the different, like the people that will buy low income rentals, the people that will buy beautiful rehabs,
high-end rehabs,
different areas.
Full guts. Yeah.
So that's why so the mistake is if you have just a buyer and you're basically shopping for that buyer, you're very limited. Because when I finally figured that out, I realized I left a lot of deals on the table that I said no to.
And I think that's critical. So let's also go back to, so you and I met co-wholesaling together, JVing some wholesale deals, right? You were on the South Shore getting, leads. I was on the North Shore. I know that market. And so, we started, I think we did like almost a dozen deals together before we actually started owning some rentals together. But, and so the value was I was already a proven, experienced wholesaler who was moving deals in that market. And I was treating it like a business, right? I see a lot of people who are like, hey, JV with me. And then we're like, how often do you move deals? Or do you know what I mean?
It's my pet peeve.
Let's talk about it.
So,
by the way, I'm leading you towards this, so I know.
It is my pet peeve because the opposite is someone who hasn't done a deal. They want to start on the buyer side and they want to join venture. So they're saying, hey, I'm new. Like they go to other wholesalers and say, hey, I'll join venture. I'll find the buyer, but they've never done a deal. Yeah. What, in that case, like what value are you adding? And because you're not getting the seller. Getting the seller is valuable. Contract's valuable. So when the person gets a seller, I respect that. Like that's value. But so I don't have the contract. I'm just telling this wholesale I'm going to find a buyer. And what am I doing? I'm going on Facebook trying to find a buyer. Like you're not adding value. You only want to join. I think you should get good at selling, at getting the sellers, and then build your database. Once you have a database, if you're moving deals, yeah, absolutely, joint venture with other people, but don't, because now that wholesaler's got a contract, it's sort of the blind leading the blind. I do see this. It's like some new wholesaler has a contract, they're joint venturing, they don't know how to find a buyer, so they're joint venturing with this other new wholesaler who doesn't, so that doesn't know what they're doing. And what ends up happening is the sellers get hurt because you don't close a deal, you have the wrong price, or you don't have the buyers, you don't close the deal, seller gets hurt. That's where the bad rep comes in and goes, oh, these wholesalers are dodgy. And it's like I said, I can't really defend that because like that's not good.
Well, and I think that's so. So first of all, don't JV lightly. Anyone can go buy a list of buyers off of some website. That's not what makes someone a good JV partner, right? Because you and I have JV'd some deals, even in this recent market that's been really hard, that we've helped people move deals in the greater New Orleans market that were otherwise, I mean, other people had attempted to move them and they couldn't.
Yeah.
Right? And so it takes and as you were talking about, as the shift happens in markets, it takes actual skill. It's not just a list, but it's knowing.
I learned a really, and that's a two-sided marketplace coming to play, right? And knowing that other side, the buyers is a side. And I learned a really valuable lesson. And there was an out-of-state wholesaler, really good guy, really competent, right? Alex, really good dude. He had this deal, he came to me, he's like, hey, you want a JV? Like, if you want to find a buyer, I'm like, yeah, I got lots of buyers here, I'll JV, show me the deal. Those conversations happen a lot. I then look at the deal because the deal still needs to be a deal. I will not send a deal that's not a deal to my buyers because I'll stop looking at my emails, right? So I bet it mostly. I'm like, yeah, LJ Venture, show me a deal. And I'm like, yeah, I can't sell that. Like, it's not
a good deal.
priced right. But this was, I'm like, oh, I'm like, that's a good deal. Like, this guy knows what he's doing. Like, yeah, I'll move that all day. And I sent it out, got it assigned, sold it, saw him, we joint ventured. And the buyer said to me at closing, he's like, you know what, Steve? I saw that deal. Someone sent me that deal before you sent it to me, but I didn't really look at it until you sent it. And that was like, I sort of conceptually knew it, but that was like my like bingo, like just sending an email doesn't count. The sellers need to trust you. They need to know you.
Right.
You need to.
Well, buyers get like they get all these emails. So I joke and say that my email's on the black market somewhere being sold because I get emails all the time from people I don't know. And if I don't know them, I don't trust it. And here's the thing is we're busy. I don't know if I want to spend the time and vet it.
Yeah. And it's a speed because you might look at here's what I learned in psychology to it, right? You get all the you don't know this person, you get a deal, and you see so many bad deals and like misconception. Wholesalers don't know the ARVs, and because lots of them don't. So you get
So
this
you
deal,
lump it in.
you get this deal, you see it, and in your head like, oh, this is probably not a deal. So you might even look at it, but you're going in already, and you sniff something wrong. You're like, yeah, not a deal. Like you confirm it. Whereas if you're a good wholesaler and you earn your reputation, like I've worked hard for my reputation, right? So when I send a deal, I think most buyers like, okay, Home Buyer Louisiana, let me look at this. There's their mind is it could be a deal, and they're gonna look at it and they're gonna just still got to be a deal, right? But also don't abuse that because that's why I won't send a deal that I don't believe in. Because if you send too many deals that really aren't deals, like the buyers will turn off, and that's your two-sided marketplace. You've killed the other side.
Yeah, so I think what's critical is I mean, you and I have friends who are major players on the buyer side, right? Who have literally told both of us that they're only buying from a few select people just because of all that dead weight, right? All that fluff. They're like, I ain't time for that. But they're some of the largest buyers in this area. So there is benefits beyond just skill to joint venturing. And so, which is why you and I have either individually or together or whatever with joint ventured with other people. It's because, and we see this often, I think one of the other big things is virtual wholesalers who come into the New Orleans market often get it wrong. You want to talk about that? Virtual wholesalers?
Yeah. First, I mean, New Orleans is hard to underwrite. So I think like because we changed block to block, so I think that's really hard. So the virtual wholesalers do struggle. And I'll link it to one other point I want to make, right? Is that I think you need to own your database, right? Because business-wise, that's an asset. And I think a lot of wholesalers, they think that Facebook is a dispo strategy. Like, and I'm not saying I'm not against posting deals on Facebook. I posted deals on Facebook when I first started, but I haven't posted an actual deal on Facebook for a long time. I will occasionally post, hey, I sent out a deal, and but like because I want to control who sees my deals and who doesn't. And the algorithms in Facebook can change, and and public people that you don't want to see seeing it. So you want to control your platform, which I do. And a lot of the national players, they all use Investor Lift, right? And if I was a national player, I would use Investor Lift too. But here's the thing: I use Investor Lift. Myself and Richard McRae in Baton Rouge, another big player up there, right? We both joined about the same time. And what I realized was I paid like $6,000 for the year. And what I realized was like, there's buyers there, but they want you to send your deals out through Investor Lift, but they want you to upload your buyers into Investor Lift, right? And when you do that, they share it with the cartel members at the top.
The guy who pays the most.
They pay the most. So if you're national, I would be a cartel. It's expensive. It's worth it. I'd be a cartel member any day, right? But as a local person, I realized I'm not going to give you my data. I got the best database in New Orleans. Why would I give you my database? And I didn't renew because I didn't really get value. And I'm like, dude, you pay me. Why do you want me to pay you to renew? You should pay me, because your national guys can't wholesale because they don't have the buyers. Richard was the same. He joined the same time as me. He didn't upload his list. He's like, why am I going to give it here the biggest list in Baton Rouge? We ended up doing the database swap. So me and Richard became he became powerful in New Orleans. I became powerful in Baton Rouge, and I'm like, and we never fed him that data. So, that's why I think a lot of national guys struggle, because I don't think our market particularly has got any significant player upload their data into it. So I think that's why they struggle. They don't get the JV. They send it out. Investor Lift to just owning your platform. Paul, I think Investor Lift's really smart. The owners, I've listened to them. They're brilliant. I actually think the platform's really awesome. Yeah. Just for a local person, I don't think it's worth it, and particularly in our market, not worth it. But you send out your deal and it's branded Investor Lift. How many Investor Lift emails do you get?
I get a ton.
How many are good?
I've stopped looking at them, because here's another issue was stopped looking at them because they also randomly started sending me stuff for Texas. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I got brought into the Texas marketplace, and I think I'm in Florida as well. And so then I don't know if it's a Louisiana deal, and I only buy in Louisiana, Mississippi. So when I started getting emails for California, so that's the other thing. I think they have me as LA, but they don't know between California and Louisiana. So it's Los Angeles and LA. And so I started getting a whole bunch of stuff for California. I don't know why I'm on there, right? And so again, goes back to my theory that my email's on the black market being sold.
But it is, because you load it, then they share and stuff. But the point, okay, so who does that benefit? The problem is this.
It benefits the software.
Well, and also it benefits. It's a game theory, because the worst wholesalers benefit, the best wholesalers benefit the least, right? Because I vet my deals, right? When you see a deal from Home Buyer Louisiana, you know it's being vetted. It may not meet your buy box, like people but it's not a crap deal, right? So, and I own that. If I send crap deals, my brand, you're going to start going, Home Buyer Louisiana sucks. And if I'm sending crap deals, I deserve it. When you send deals from Investor Lift, it's branded Investor Lift, right? So
you don't know who's sending it.
So if you're a newbie and you're crap, that's fine. Who cares? You actually having the Investor Lift brand helps. But if you're somewhat decent, you're now lumped in with all those crap people who don't know what they're doing. So that's why a business brand, own your platform, own your reputation, good or bad. If it's bad, you deserve that reputation. But if it's good, you deserve a good reputation. Don't get grouped in with other people's.
Well, no, and so I think that's critical. It's the idea of your database is an asset. So many people don't live that way, don't think that way. Again, they're thinking Facebook is almost like hope as a strategy, right? I'm gonna hope I find someone. No. How many times when you have a deal, you're like, these are the handful of people I know will probably be a good fit. We might have others.
And my tip for the buyer. So I mean, there's nothing you can post it on. If you don't have a database, start with Facebook. But here's my tip to the buyers, right? If you're getting your deals from Facebook, you're not seeing the best deals, man, because I'm not sending them, and all the other people that are good aren't using Facebook. So you're not seeing the best deals.
Well, and I think that's critical. So again, guys, reference that video that says how to buy, deals from wholesalers. So I think that's important with wholesalers is knowing, thinking of treating this like a business, right? A lot of people hustle, side hustle. That's fine. Side hustle one side of the marketplace, right? And then just own that. And I honestly think the best side is that seller side, because at the end of the day, especially in this market, it takes a lot more skill on the backside. But if you have a competent person who knows, has the buyers, who can help you vet the numbers, and that can also help you figure out the numbers and all that. And so I think that's critical. So, all right, so you've been doing a ton with wholesaling, and then you started going into some other, so you haven't just wholesaled. So for a good while, talk to me about the Burr method when, what was this, 21 and 22 or 2020, getting into then, right?
Yep.
What did that look like for you?
So, I mean, I actually got into syndication first.
Okay.
Okay. So going back to, okay, sales and marketing is my skill, but so wholesaling works, but I love property. I want to own property, right? So I did that for a while, like one-eyed dog in a meat factory, right? I'm just doing wholesaling, but once I started getting that, I started to expand. I want to own the assets. I don't want to just wholesale, but I love Robert Kiyosaki. I mentioned that before, and he talks about infinite return, right? So you get an infinite cash on cash return. So, and he would do that using Ken McElroy in Phoenix, or he's all around the world really, but all around America. But he would do syndications with Ken McElroy. That's how he built his wealth. So
Because Ken's really big in the apartment space.
he would be invested with Ken. Ken would buy an apartment, rehab it, reposition it. They'd refinance out all their money back, right? And then they would have equity still in the deal. So that's an infinite cash on cash return because the cash is back, and I still got this asset making money. So I like that. I invested in a syndication because of that. And then I saw the Burr method, and I'm like, oh, that's the same thing. And I figured out the Burr method was the same thing, but I could refinance in 6 months. So I could buy this myself, own it all myself, fix it up, put a tenant, and 6 months later do that refi, and I own the asset myself. And I went, oh man, because the business plan for the syndication was a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
And now if I look back, it's funny because obviously the syndication market's not a great time, so they still haven't refinanced yet. They're looking to do it now. I'm about 5 years in, right? And in that time, I've done, I think, about 27 Burrs that I've owned, got it out, and so I'm glad I shifted into that Burr method
Which is a great argument for the multifamily versus single family, where it's like, hey, doing a deal where it is, you have a lot of doors. Yeah, it's bigger, but it's harder to move one property to refinance one property, but refinancing 20 properties at one time, or selling those, stuff like
There's
that.
pros and cons. I'm not against multifamily, and it's just a bad time in the market for them too. But it's more something I like a lot. Is I like doing small things, inefficient things, repeating. I think it's a
proven concept.
Well, it's a mistake a lot of investors think, because I think they feel like they do something and they get good at it, but they feel like, oh, I've got to go do bigger. I'm going to go do these bigger deals, and it's like, dude, if you're doing this, just do 600 of them. And that's what I did in my old business. We were building customers, and we just let's just do this thousands of times, build a big company. So I love simple things on repeat, and to me the Burr is simple. It's not that sexy. That one Burr property isn't that sexy, but you just do it many times, and you're building a pretty significant asset base that you control.
Yeah, and so I think that's critical. I think a lot of people aren't willing to do repetition to that degree. They always are chasing the sexier thing, and honestly, plenty of people don't realize how much of success is just the simple things done consistently.
Absolutely.
Jim Rohn said that success is not defined by one catalytic event. It is a lot of basic things done day in and day out, right? And so it's that idea of, think about it. Buying a property didn't come overnight. What was it? It was, talking to sellers. It was going on appointments. It was making, underwriting the deal, making offers. All of those things done repetitively eventually ended in accepted offer and a purchase, right? But everyone pays attention to the purchase.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so, well, look, guys, we're going to pause here. This here is part 1. If you're enjoying the conversation, I promise you it's going to get better for part 2. Make sure you check that out here with Steve Keighery.